She wore my bridesmaid dress to our mutual friend's wedding, 1 month before my own, in front of 80 people who would all be sitting in my ceremony. When I confronted her about it, she told me I was the one with the problem. Let me take you back to where this started. My name doesn't matter. What matters is that I spent the better part of a year trying to be the most reasonable bride alive. Budget-conscious. Collaborative. The kind of woman who makes a fair deal and keeps her word. I found the perfect dresses. I bought them myself. I set up an arrangement so even-handed that my bridesmaids actually thanked me. I thought I had done everything right, and I had. The problem was never my planning. The problem was one woman, Roxy, who decided that my generosity was a permission slip. To do whatever she wanted, whenever she wanted, and to call anyone who objected dramatic. But here is the thing about karma. It does not announce itself. It does not ask for permission. It just shows up, usually right when someone has convinced themselves they have gotten away with it. It showed up for Roxy in the most quiet, most precise, most perfectly calibrated way you can imagine. Stay with me. Let me paint you a picture of my life before all of this, because context is everything. I am getting married this summer. A real, deeply exciting, deeply personal event, but one I am doing on a genuinely modest budget. My cousin opened her home to us in Antioch, Tennessee, just outside Nashville, so the whole group could stay there before the bachelorette trip instead of booking hotels. Another cousin owns a van. We are splitting the cost of gas between everyone in it. Nobody in our circle has money to burn. Nobody is pretending otherwise, and I made a conscious, deliberate decision early in the planning process. I was going to be the chill bride. You know her. Maybe you have been her. The woman who does not turn her wedding into a year-long test of everyone around her. The one who genuinely cares whether her bridesmaids are having a good time. I sat my girls down, all of them, and I told them plainly, if anything about this becomes a burden, bring it to me. We will figure it out together. I meant every single word of it. That was my operating philosophy from day one. Be fair, be flexible. Trust your people. So when I found the dresses, a beautiful set of cocktail dresses from Anthropologie, inclusive sizing, stunning color, and on sale in a way that felt almost suspicious, I already knew how I wanted to handle it. I did not want to make my bridesmaids buy something expensive and unwearable. I wanted them to love what they had on, so I bought all the dresses myself, every single one, and I told my bridesmaids the deal was simple. I cover the dress, they cover any alterations necessary to make it fit perfectly. That is it. I pay for the dress, you pay for the tailoring. Every person said yes. Every person was genuinely thrilled. And for a few beautiful, uncomplicated weeks, I felt like the luckiest bride alive. The team was assembled. The dresses were perfect. Everything felt effortless. And then there was Roxy. I want to be precise about what I was trying to give my bridesmaids, because this detail becomes the center of everything later. When I picked those dresses, I was not just thinking about my wedding day. I was thinking about the years after it. I deliberately chose something wearable, not the kind of structured, overpriced bridesmaid costume that spends a decade folded in a storage bin before finally going to donation. Something real. Something my bridesmaids could pull out of their closet 2 years from now and actually put on again. And I said that out loud, more than once. I told my bridesmaids, get something you can wear again. That was the explicit intention behind the whole arrangement. A real gift, not just a costume. My bridesmaids took that seriously, Roxy especially. She picked up her dress, got the alterations done, sent me a photo trying it on, and wrote, and I am quoting exactly, that she looked absolutely incredible. She was not wrong. She genuinely did. The dress fit her like it had been cut for her body specifically. She was glowing, delighted, every bit as excited as I was. I felt the way every bride hopes to feel in that moment, surrounded by people who were genuinely happy, genuinely present, genuinely invested in this thing I was building. I cried a little, honestly. We were a team. Everything felt exactly right. And then December arrived. And with December came a work Christmas party. And from that party came a group photo, the kind that gets posted to social media before anyone has thought about it twice. And in that photo, clear as anything, was Roxy, at her company holiday mixer, with her coworkers, wearing the bridesmaid dress. I saw it. I felt something move in my stomach, small, quiet, familiar. The low-grade alarm your gut sends before your brain catches up, but I pressed it down. Hard. None of my wedding guests were at that party. This was not the same thing. I was not going to be the kind of bride who calls someone over a Christmas party photo. I closed the app. I told myself that was the reasonable thing to do. I want you to remember this moment. It matters. Here is the thing about burying a small alarm. It does not disappear, it just waits. In the weeks that followed the Christmas party photo, I started noticing a pattern. A birthday dinner in late January, the dress. A Saturday night out somewhere in February, the dress. Something that looked like a gallery opening or a cocktail event in early March, angle unclear, the dress. Roxy was building a life in that dress, and every appearance left a small new mark on the back of my mind that I kept quietly repainting over with reason. I told myself the same things over and over like a loop. She loves it. She is young and having fun. This is exactly what I wanted, a dress that actually gets worn. Who am I to be upset about my own success? Let me ask you something directly. Have you ever had an instinct you kept ignoring because you had built a whole identity around being the reasonable one? Because acknowledging the truth would mean breaking the story you were telling yourself about who you were? That was me. The chill bride had become a kind of armor. Every time the alarm sounded, I said the same words like a protection spell. I am not dramatic, I am fair. This is fine. And then May arrived. And with it, a wedding invitation from a mutual friend, an intimate outdoor ceremony of about 80 guests. I looked at that guest list and felt something specific and cold move through me. Almost every person on it was also invited to my wedding. In July, 4 weeks later, the same social circle, the same close group of mutual friends, about to attend 2 weddings in the same month. I did not think much of it at first. Weddings stack up in the summer. I RSVP'd. I made a note. I kept moving. And then I asked Roxy what she planned to wear. Little did Roxy know, I had already started paying very close attention. I asked her casually, the way you would ask anyone, making easy conversation about an upcoming event. There was no suspicion in my voice. I want to be absolutely clear about that. I was not setting a trap. I was not testing her. I genuinely just asked. And Roxy said, "Oh, I am just going to wear the bridesmaid dress from your wedding. I look hot in it, and it is my favorite." Pause. I need you to understand the full weight of what that sentence did to me, because I do not think you can feel it from the outside without me walking you through it. 80 people. 80 people who were coming to my ceremony the very next month were about to spend an entire evening at someone else's wedding watching Roxy look incredible in my bridesmaid dress. They would see her dance in it. They would see her photographed in it from every angle. They would have the complete, total, immersive experience of that dress. Its color, its cut, the way the fabric moves in warm light, all the way through a full night. And then 4 weeks later, they would walk into my ceremony. And instead of that sharp intake of breath, that moment of first-time magic, that pure visual surprise of seeing something beautiful you have never seen before, they would have a flicker of recognition. A small internal click. Is that not the same dress Roxy wore to? The reveal would be over. Not destroyed, not ruined, but softened. Familiar. A rerun instead of a premiere. I measured every word. I told her calmly and directly, I was not comfortable with that. I did not want the dress to make its debut in our friend group at someone else's wedding. I wanted the first time our people saw those dresses to be in my ceremony, standing at the altar where they belonged. Roxy looked at me like I had said something mildly interesting, but ultimately not her concern. And then she smiled, and she said the 2 words that changed everything between us. You're being a bridezilla. 2 words, delivered with the specific, serene confidence that belongs exclusively to people who have never, not once in their lives, seriously entertained the possibility that they might be wrong. Not apologetic, not uncertain, just completely, smoothly, serenely sure that the problem was me. And here is where it escalated, because Roxy did not just push back, she came armed. She had clearly been thinking about this. She reminded me, point by careful point, that I had explicitly told my bridesmaids to pick dresses they could wear again, which is technically true. I said those exact words. She was not misquoting me. But she was doing the thing that truly skilled manipulators do better than almost anything else. She was taking my exact words and surgically removing all the context, all the intent, all the obvious meaning, and presenting the hollow skeleton of what I had said as though it were a binding legal contract. I meant after the wedding. Any reasonable person who had been present for those conversations understood that. But Roxy was not being a reasonable person right now. She was being a very bad faith lawyer. And then she deployed the second argument. The one she had clearly been saving, since she had paid for her own alterations, and since the dress happened to be on a genuinely excellent sale, she calculated that she had invested roughly the same amount of money into that dress as I had. Therefore, she concluded, I had no particular authority over it. She owned it as much as I did. She could wear it wherever she chose. My other bridesmaids, sitting at the same table, went completely quiet. Not the relaxed quiet of people with nothing to add, the tight, held breath quiet of people who had quite a lot to add and were choosing not to say it yet. I looked at their faces. I read each expression carefully, and I made a decision in that moment. I was going to end this conversation gracefully. I was going to let Roxy think she had won, go home, and sit with everything she had said. Because I already knew exactly what I was going to do. In the days that followed, I did something I should probably have done months earlier. I had real, private, individual conversations with each of my other bridesmaids, separately, without Roxy present, where no one had to perform for an audience. What came back was remarkably consistent. Every single one of them had seen the Christmas party photo. Everyone had caught the birthday dinner, the night out posts, the various other appearances. They had all been watching this pattern build quietly for months, and not one of them had said a word about it. Not because they disagreed with me, but because nobody wanted to be the one who made it a thing. Nobody wanted to step into the blast radius, but when I asked them directly, every one of them was on my side. Completely, without hesitation. That information settled in my chest like a lit fuse, and then I learned something that recontextualized the entire situation. Roxy had already been telling mutual friends what she planned to wear to the June wedding, not as idle conversation. She had been mentioning it in group chats, treating it as a settled and decided thing. She was not waiting on my permission. She had made her decision and was already publicizing it, essentially building a social fact around it before I could do anything to change it. She was not confused about whether this was acceptable. She was daring me to do something about it. Now, I want to be honest about something because I think it matters. There is a version of me that would have absorbed this. That would have found a way to reframe it, swallow it, and shown up to my own wedding having quietly digested yet another small indignity in the name of keeping the peace. I know that version of myself well. She is the one who saw the Christmas party photo and said nothing. The one who watched 5 months of a pattern build without a single word. That version of me had been quiet for a very long time. The version of me who was done being quiet was just getting started. I called a meeting. Not a blow-up, not a group text, not a passive-aggressive comment, an actual in-person sit-down meeting. Me, my bridesmaids, and Roxy. I came prepared. I was calm. I had organized my thoughts and I delivered them without a raised voice, without theatrics, without a single tear. I laid out the full timeline. The Christmas party photo in December. The birthday dinner in January. The multiple other appearances across February and March. The June wedding conversation. Every data point in chronological order presented plainly, and then I talked about what being a bridesmaid actually means. Not just the fun parts, the photos, the bachelorette, the altar moment, the commitment. The promise, the understanding that for one specific day, you are showing up for someone else, not centering yourself. I told her that I had given her an arrangement built entirely on trust, and she had spent months treating that trust like an invitation to do whatever she pleased. Roxy sat across from me with her arms folded and that expression on her face, the one she had clearly been perfecting for years. The expression that says, I have already decided I am right and this is just performance. When I finished, she said, I have already told people I am wearing it. I am not changing my outfit 3 weeks out. Just like that. Not a pause. Not a moment of consideration. Not even the appearance of taking it seriously, so I gave her a choice. Simple, clear, binary. Either she did not wear that dress to the June wedding or she did not stand next to me in July. You could hear the room stop. The other bridesmaids went completely, perfectly still. I watched Roxy's expression do something it rarely did. It flickered. Just for a second, just barely, the unshakable certainty cracked. Underneath, it was something else. Something that looked very much like a person realizing for the first time that they had miscalculated. She recovered quickly. She looked around at the other bridesmaids, waiting for someone to laugh this off, to call me dramatic, to give her the social backing she always relied on in a room. Nobody moved. Nobody said a single word. Remember when I said she had no idea what was actually coming? Well, she was about to find out. The June wedding came. I was not there, it was not my event, and I had not been invited, and that is entirely fine. But 3 of my bridesmaids were attending, and I want to be completely transparent with you about this. I did not ask them to report back to me. I did not send anyone as a proxy. I did not ask anyone to watch her. I had made my position clear to Roxy. I had handed her an explicit, fully informed, binary choice, and I genuinely, truly, with everything I had, I hope she had thought better of it. At 6:47 in the evening, my phone lit up. One of my bridesmaids, I could tell from the way she sent it that she had been sitting on it for a while, turning it over, trying to figure out the right way to tell me, sent a single photograph. No caption, no message, no context. She did not need to provide any. There was Roxy, standing in a group at the reception, surrounded by 15 of my wedding guests. Hair done beautifully, makeup flawless, posture easy and confident, looking exactly as incredible as she always did. In the dress, my bridesmaid dress, at someone else's wedding. In front of the exact people who would be filing into my ceremony 28 days later. She had looked at the choice I gave her with full knowledge, full information, full understanding of what it would cost, and she had decided that what she wanted was more important. I set my phone face down on the table. I sat in that silence for a full minute, and then I picked it up, opened my messages, and typed 3 words to Roxy. I remember everything. She did not respond that night. The next morning came a string of justifications. She had already committed. She could not cancel last minute. I was being controlling. It was just fabric and thread. I read through them once. I did not respond because I did not need to. The conversation was already over. Roxy, who had spent 6 months treating my wedding like a backdrop to her own story, was no longer standing in it. She had made her choice. I had made mine. Here is what I want you to know about what happened next, the full picture, because I think you have earned it. I told the other bridesmaids everything. Not as a campaign, not as a call to arms, not to build a coalition against her, but because they were part of this and they deserved the complete truth. I walked them through the full timeline, the Christmas party, the months of other appearances I had quietly watched, the conversation, the meeting, the binary choice I had handed Roxy explicitly, and the decision she had made anyway. Their response was almost completely uniform. They understood. More than that, several of them admitted, unprompted, that they had been uncomfortable watching this unfold for months and had stayed silent because they did not want to step into it. Nobody argued that I had overreacted. Nobody came to Roxy's defense. Roxy went through the expected stages. Furious, then deeply wounded, then self-righteous, then briefly apologetic before cycling back to furious again. She told mutual friends that I had removed her from the wedding party over a dress, which was technically accurate and spectacularly incomplete. What she left out, in every version she told, was the timeline. The months of signals I had absorbed quietly without a word. The meeting where I had sat across from her and given her a clear way out. The explicit choice I had placed in front of her before any of this reached the point of no return. Mutual friends have a way of assembling the full story eventually. And they did. My wedding was in July. It was, and I say this not as a brag, but as a simple, grateful statement, genuinely beautiful. My bridesmaids walked down that aisle in perfect, unified procession. The dresses looked exactly as I had always imagined they would. The room responded the way I had dreamed of since the day I found them, a collective quiet, a few people reaching for each other's hands, the pure, unfiltered experience of seeing something for the very first time. Roxy was there. I had invited her, because I am not a petty person and she had once been someone I loved. She sat in the 3rd row in a different dress. And when my bridesmaids appeared at the back of the aisle, I caught Roxy's face for just a moment across the room, in the candlelight, and I saw the expression of someone who understood completely and finally what she had traded away. She watched the entire ceremony from that 3rd row. She watched the thing she could have been part of from the outside. That is karma, not loud, not theatrical, just exact. There is something I keep returning to when I think back on the whole situation with Roxy, and I think it is worth saying clearly. I spent a tremendous amount of energy trying to be the chill bride, trying not to become the kind of woman who turns a wedding into a year-long loyalty test, trying to be fair, generous, accommodating, and reasonable at every step, and I do not regret any of that. I think that instinct is genuinely worth something. The chill bride is a real and valuable thing to be. But there is a difference between being chill and being a doormat. There is a difference between choosing your battles wisely and narrating your own patience back to yourself like a mantra while someone takes advantage of you one quiet degree at a time. I kept repeating those words. I am a chill bride. This is fine. I am not dramatic, as though saying them loud enough would make them permanently true. All they were actually doing was buying Roxy more time. Roxy did not lose her place in my wedding because of a dress. She lost it because she was handed a clear, explicit, fully informed choice, with complete knowledge of exactly what it would cost her, and she decided that what she wanted in that moment was more important than what I had asked for. That is not my fault. That is not my responsibility to manage. That is hers to carry. If you have ever been in a situation where your reasonableness kept getting used against you, where your kindness was consistently read as an absence of limits, where your patience was treated as permanent permission, then you already know what this story is really about. It was never about a dress. It was about one person deciding her comfort mattered more than someone else's most important day. And about another person deciding, finally and without apology, that it did not have to. Karma does not always announce itself with fire and spectacle. Sometimes it is completely quiet. Sometimes it is a third-row seat at a wedding you were supposed to be standing in. If this story resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe to Cold Karma for a new story every single day. Justice does not wait, and neither should you.